I'm Carrie Lake. I've created Animals of a New Earth podcast and video series now, as it has turned out, just to be able to share a maybe more expansive and integrated perspective about who animals are in relation to humanity, and to really bring to light how animals touch the hearts of humanity, not just because they are our pets. And there are so many ways that are obvious to many, many people that animals touch our hearts. But I also love the conversation to go beyond just our pets into the real relationship between humans and non-humans, and how people can receive that love that it's just there to facilitate our nourishment and our growth. So that's why I continue to share and want to share these conversations. And today I have this beautiful person, Norbert Dupraz. Is that right? Dupraz?
Yeah.
And Norbert and I connected over Facebook, sort of just by chance, and had a conversation. And I'm inviting his contribution here because he's a healing practitioner doing cranio-sacral work, Chinese medicine, and perhaps more for humans, but also has a history with horses and animals, and wants to develop his techniques and his work to also treat animals. I love it. I love it. There's so much I see in that can benefit people in so many dimensions. So this is why I wanted to have this chat with you, and invite your insight and brilliance, and your questions and my questions, and just enjoy the conversation as we share. So that's my rough introduction. And Norbert, would you like to introduce yourself any further? Is there anything you would want to say to share with people about why you're here and what you want to share in the world?
Yeah, sure. So first, thank you for this invitation, for this call, and for this presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first, as a lot of people that from the childhood were close to animals, I wanted to be a vet, and I follow my studies in that way first, and but then because of some logistical problem, and because of the language, because studies are mostly in German in Switzerland, I continue with osteopathy and cranio-sacral for humans, and lately, after this courses with humans, I did a courses in osteopathy with horses, and it was like it was also like a reborn, a new discovery for me, to have the chance to come back to this first love to animals, and to mix and to blend my professional activity for humans, and to begin to find a way also to develop things for horses, and maybe to create something new in between. So that's a little bit shortly my an overview of my courses briefly, and yeah, and a lot of things to develop in that way, to structure, and yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of questions.
Once you have the inspiration, there's so many details to put together to be able to actually share it effectively, aren't there? That's been a big, I don't want to say it's an obstacle that it's been in my world, having so much vision and so much heart that you want to help animals and people, but how to create a structure that lets that happen, how to create a structure that brings your own vision to life.
Yeah. The thing is, what we could talk first is that I observe that in the different discipline, for example, you have professional and therapists are often working on human and working on animals, but we still a long time since a long time. I think mostly we humans have an anthropocentric point of view,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we have the habit to put humans above in a kind of, I would say, consciousness, and I think it makes all different boxes,
Mm.
and we treat humans. When we treat humans, it's a different type of consciousness, and we have some tools with the communication, with verbal communication,
Right.
and for animals, in that case for horses, it's like, yeah, we actually most of the time, I don't know the word in English, but there are still some kind of rental animals. I mean, um, the animals that we use for rentability, like
Oh, oh,
cows,
oh.
and it's like we do not uh, accept the fact that this animal have a different type of consciousness. So we can put it in general for the animal world. So it's also a way to decide first, and it's personal. It's about consciousness, but people are beginning to opening to that. Is that why not to put the consciousness of animals at the same level of humans? And it's a first step, and then after you have different type of way of treating. But what I wanted to say is that in the past, uh, we were sorry
That's
we
okay.
were we were treating animal uh, more mechanically, because
Mhm.
in fact when you if you are treating animals like human, you are saying that there is a conscience and
Mhm.
the way that there are emotions, and
Mhm.
finally you are discovering that in most of aspect we are still using animals, and it can also make appear some kind of suffering till
Yes.
ages. So it's a huge aspect and a huge way to see the things. So
Yes.
what I discovered with some therapists is that also also in that kind of jobs you have also different kind of mentality. But for example, ecotherapy,
Yeah.
you have some, I would like to say, new aspect of ecotherapy that are putting the horse at the same level of consciousness as the human.
Mm.
And in that aspect, it it opens a lot.
It
So,
really does.
yeah.
Yes. I
So
love everything you're talking about. Keep going. I love it. It's like, this is what I love about having the conversations and sharing with them. Like, I think so many of us have these feelings, and a lot of people are starting to see from this perspective that
mm,
animals don't have the same consciousness as humans. There are differences, but we don't have to be above or below the animals, right? And in order to really treat them there and treat them side by side, we can't put humans below animals either, as if to say, oh, humans are so bad, look at everything bad humans do, humans suck, right? We can't do that either, because the animals would never put us below them
For sure.
either, you know. And it's so rich, is that treating animals as we would humans, but honoring that they do have uniqueness. Non-human consciousness is not the same as human consciousness.
Mhm. But it means also a new way of facing our relationship to animals and what we did in the past. So yeah, it's a lot of it's a huge step. It's a huge
Yes.
step, and yeah, all communities, world, um, different type of aspect of
Yes.
animals. I mean, in sport, from horse riding, it's like it's challenging, and to say that and to see, oh, um, and just to ask, could we see the
Mm-hmm.
horse that we use for sport as a friend, but to put the horse on the same level as a rider, it's a challenging, and yeah.
And yeah, definitely, yes, it's a complete paradigm shift for humans,
Mhm.
because humans have been so anthropocentric, you know. Yes. Oh, it's like one of my favorite conversations, because it invites us to see animals differently. But before that, it invites humans to see themselves differently.
Mhm. Sure.
It, and that's the rough part. That's where humans are challenged to look at whether they're going to judge themselves. And I think this is what you were saying before. If we are going to let ourselves be human differently, are we going to judge ourselves for the way we have been, or are we going to simply see that a different way is possible and go in that direction without the judgment, without the self-hatred, you know, without having to prove that was bad or this is good, and erase all the judgment and just simply say, let's walk in a new direction, you know. And it's much kinder to drop the judgment. um, I wanted to ask you, you shared with me when we talked the first time, and I just love it, hearing it from you, about when you did ride as a kid and you took riding lessons, and what that was like for you and why you stopped. Will you share that
Yeah,
again?
yeah, sure. Yeah, I had the chance to, with my parents, that we had horses, and but we put the horse in a horse riding center because we were not in the business of horses, so
Mm-hmm.
you could not let the horse at home. Um, yeah, but the thing is, yeah, but in that case, in that horse riding center, um, in that classical way of learning horse riding, you you felt a lot of discipline. You felt I you feel a lot of exigence, but it's about sport and it's about results.
And
And
not about horses.
no, and the thing is, it's you can you can pass through if finally you maybe have how do you say, good results. if you are doing, for example, a contest, and then you say, yes, I won it, it was good. And it's like an energy that you want to bring the horse and to say, yeah, and the horse was also happy because of that. But yeah,
Yes, because he feels
we
you.
don't know, we will never know. But in that case, finally, by chance, I had no result. Because maybe I had too much pleasure to stay in the box with my horse.
Yes, yes.
I quickly lost this pleasure to do horse riding course
And
and
competing,
to
yeah.
do competition in Sunday. And then after at this time the teacher, uh, yeah, you have all kind of teacher, but the teacher still wanted the results. So finally you are losing a little bit the contact with the administration, with the teacher,
Mm,
and you are more staying in your world and trying to share
mm,
uh, a few little things and few cares with your horse without any attempt about result, about sport, about jumping, and so on. So yeah, that was like that. The thing is, as it's um, at this time, it was really the usual way to train a horse for jumping.
mm.
And then if you are not doing that, horse riding center was like to mean to you that, yeah, you are useful, you are just I
Yes,
mean, you want to take your horse in the field and that's all, but it's useless for everybody. It's a waste of time. And
right. Like you have no value if all you want is connection and
yeah,
and what you enjoy is spending time,
yeah.
right? That, yeah, in that world, just being, it has no value, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So,
And
yeah.
yeah, and but I think it's also quite new because this shift began quite lately to have people that were finally a lot of people that were upset about that,
Mhm.
and finally thought, yeah, but we have so much things to share, to develop, and finally new aspect, some kind of few people, but finally I think it began a community.
Mhm.
And yes, for sure we still are looking that in a lot of different discipline you have a lot of it's a huge business. So but
Yes,
in all of that you still have a community that is growing, that wants to take the thing differently and less about results.
yes,
So yeah.
yes. And so do you know a documentary called The Path of the Horse? Have you seen that?
No, no.
No. A friend and colleague of mine created that film 12 years ago now, and it was a very big drop, a big rock in the pond, a lot of ripples to get people to notice how much people use to pain or fear to make horses perform for competition or their own grandeur, whatever humans decided that they wanted, right? And um, she has another film in production now called Peace and Horses, to help more people recognize the value, like to really illustrate how it is valuable to just be with horses,
Mhm.
right? And so that conversation is it's bigger now than ever, and I just know it's going to grow because she already has a huge audience that is waiting for her next production. And I'm blessed that she's a friend of mine, and we get to talk, and I get to share in that conversation too. But what I love, and the reason why I bring that up, and I love that you brought up that more people are aware of it. People like you and me and others who did not have community, but still listened to our hearts, right? That said, I can't do this. This isn't who I am. Have been creating this new way just by staying true to our hearts, so that later on we can find each other, And I just want to acknowledge that, because it like you said, it's rare that people, if they feel they don't want to hit the horse and they do it anyway because of training, because of that's your parents pay for lessons and that's how you have to do it. I know I did that for a long time. Like, that was my option to be around horses. My only option was to take the lessons and do it the way I was told. And it was so hard, because I'm sure, like you, I could feel the horses. I could feel them uncomfortable and unhappy, but I did what I was told until, like, when I was 12. I couldn't pretend I was like everybody else. And to the outside world, and I've talked to my parents about this, to other people, it looked like I was unstable and belligerent and not, I was defying the rules, and I was a bad kid, but inside I was in so much conflict, right? Like, how can I do this? How come other people don't listen to the horses, right? How come other people don't honor what they feel? That's really what it came down to. That was what was so confusing to me, is everybody has the capacity to feel the suffering of a horse, or the communication. We don't have to call it suffering, but the communication of a horse or a dog or another person, right? And it seemed to me, if everybody can feel this, why do they not respond to what they feel, right? Why is it that they keep doing these things even if it's clear an animal is suffering? Why? And that was hard for me as a kid.
Yeah, the thing is, but it's related also to a high level of sensitiveness. The thing is to begin to to touch that. You need to accept to do your own process about your consciousness and to face your fears, because you have a lot of people, it's an example, but you have a lot of people that are doing their way, but you can feel, and sometimes you, when you talk about them, they are they are saying that they are right, that they are good, but they are not facing their fears. And in that way you are not um, doing that process that also make you feel that you are close to every other being. Because to do that, you have to do this own process. um, because I think that if you are sensitive and you are see like a child around you all this suffering for animals, you say you say inside of you, oh, there's a problem. So you lock down inside of you, so you prefer not to, because you do not see the way to pass through this suffering. and with the years, if you accept to do this process and to face your fear, because it's not easy.
No.
Yeah, objective or beliefs. And then after that, when you do this process, everything is more clear, and you can after that more easily accept that each consciousness of animal or human are on the same level. and then after you can easily let your sensitiveness coming or coming back, and and to let it use. But yeah, I think it needs a step about facing our fears and to go forward, and then but it's a huge process. It's a big process, because it's also about, yeah, what do I want to do in my life,
Yeah.
which what is my own way. And
Yes.
it's also some kind of risk, and it's risky, and it's also about to accepting our own sensitiveness.
Yes. I
The work. So yeah.
yes. I think very very simply that's what it's all about, is recognizing my natural sensitivity, my natural way of seeing the world and connecting, and how how generous can I be with myself to let myself have what's natural to me, even if I can't explain it, right? Even if um, the society has no space for it, I can still be generous with myself for who I am. And when you get to that point of, and to me, that like that awareness built over years in my friendship with horses, because the animals don't need me to be anything other than what I am. Like, ding, how do we offer that to ourselves? How do we offer that to each other and still interact in the world, right? So facing the fears and discovering my own way, it doesn't mean retreat from society, right? It means I can bring that into what I'm doing. Even if I have a regular job, I can still bring that uniqueness into that job. And for some people, what it means is I want to create something that's never existed before, or I want to create a unique way of doing something that does exist, but I have something else to share as well. But it's a shift, like you said before, it's a big change that's not about competing, it's about sharing and creating together. Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, also the importance about facing the fears, I come back again on it,
Yes, yes.
is
Good, good.
is that finally the fears that we have, if we do not uh, pass over them, it's it's like a print that we put, or that we express to every discussion, to everybody that we interact with. So um, we we have an impact on other people with our fears. So we if we do not do this work, we can also define ourselves with fears, with our own fears. and and then after that, we still cannot imagine that other people or other beings are reacting not to what we are deeply inside, but about the fear that they are seeing or looking.
Yes.
So and finally it's the same about horses. It's when you see an owner, and that after his day of work with a lot of stress, is riding his horse and saying, "Oh my God, my horse is not well. He is stressed," and so on. But it's not. It's only because he cannot recognize his own fears and his bad day and bad uh, humor,
Yes.
and all this process is. And as you said, we are in a shift, and it's the consciousness are elevating themselves, but it's still very difficult because it means that we have also this responsibility as human beings to do this work about facing the fears, about elevate ourselves, and then finally to begin to understand that the way we are deeply inside and our fears will affect the attitudes of our animals or our friends or other humans. And it's a huge work, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's huge work, but what I love is it starts with, like you're saying, just to recognize it, right? Like the moment you are willing to acknowledge, I feel fear, or I'm afraid, or even I'm angry, or I'm resentful, or I'm um, overexcited. You know, like sometimes the defense is to get super excited and go too fast, right? Um, just being willing to be sensitive enough to acknowledge that. That's the hardest part, I think, is the willingness to acknowledge it, because the moment you acknowledge it, you've gone beyond your own defenses, right? You've let yourself see what's true. I feel fear. And
yeah.
and there's a profound simplicity to it. Doesn't make it easy, but it's simple and comes down to what I'm committed to as a human, as a being. Am I committed to discovering love and connection? Or maybe not yet. And either is okay. It's just a different journey. It's a different timeline, different events, different circumstances, you know. But just the moment of acknowledging, okay, as a being, I'm committed to discovering the expression of love through me. Then boom, you start getting new opportunities to actually take action toward that commitment, whether it's saying no to something or saying yes to something, you know. And just this morning on Facebook, somebody put up a post about fear, that fear keeps you safe, right? They put this statement: fear keeps you safe, right? What do you think? And there's 100 comments, you know. Everybody has their experience of it. My comment was that fear is just information, but awareness and wisdom toward action is what keeps you safe. Like aware and wise action is what creates that experience of safety. Fear doesn't keep you safe, right? Fear just keeps things sort of disrupted and uh, uh, not genuine. That's what I heard you saying. When I show people fear, then they don't get to interact with me. We all interact with fear. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, in the way it's all about also the way that what you are doing with this fear.
Mm,
If you are just locking in a box and saying, oh, okay, when it's rise to this level, and then you press the button, and then you have a sudden reaction.
mm,
Yeah, but it's choice about everybody. But the thing is about also the feeling of responsibility, as you said,
mm,
when you begin to discover this link with that you could have with animals, and then you begin your responsibility about human beings, that you could do maybe more for animals or for their well-being and so on.
mhm,
Then after you talk about it, you talk about love, and it's also love about animals,
mhm,
but it's also love about ourselves.
mhm,
And it's also can make the difference. To feel love for ourselves is to make that this feeling of responsibility, we continue on this process to bring into every beings, or to saying no, I'm feeling more responsible for all the problems about animals and all the suffering, and then you are locking yourself, and then and setting your sensitiveness about yourself and about others. So yeah, and it's the thing about love is something that I discovered quite recently. I mean, yeah, it's something that you can handle with your mind, with your conscience, but after that, to open your heart to feel it, it's another process. And yeah, but when you understand this this process and not feeling guiltiness, and just to bring love, and then after you can also bring love in your interaction with other beings. Yeah.
It changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What I discovered, the way to help animals have less suffering is to help humans reconnect with their own heart so that they choose for themselves different behavior. Trying to punish people into different behavior, you might change the behavior, but to what end? You know, what comes after that? All they're doing is avoiding punishment, you know, and some would still evolve and recognize gratitude and kindness and come to love, right? But to really generate the change and in humanity from a very pure and genuine, heartful place, this is the logical conclusion I came to. My intuitive logic was, how do we help people have the experience of their own heart, have the experience, like you just said, of the love coming through their own body that changes everything, you know? And for me, it's the connection with the animals that kept it alive, that they kept reminding me, it's still here, it's here, Carrie. Like that feeling, love is still here. Come on, keep going, come on, keep asking, come on, you know? And I know that that's, you know, animals on the planet are that presence perpetually for anybody who comes to a place of opening, who becomes willing.
Yeah. All different aspects, and I can yeah. I also think about a lot of people in horse that are dealing with horses, and they are also have the feeling that they want to avoid human relationship,
Right.
and that's also why I want to improve. That's also what I want to improve in my work, is that as a human therapist, I can I can feel what the body want to express, and then you have a patient that will say, okay, I have a problem on my elbow, but finally you the expression, the verbal expression, you feel quickly that there is something about emotions.
Yes.
And after, as a human therapist, you are just, yeah, have this input about the body patients and what he's saying, and then finally you see the discordance,
Mm-hmm.
and to say, okay, you are saying me that,
Mm-hmm.
but your body is saying so. What do you think about it? And
Mm-hmm.
then by this way, by asking this question, you
Mm-hmm.
make the patient realize the discordance,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
to make her feel not guilty, not blaming, but just discovering that
Yes.
and facing,
Yes.
facing. And then after you can help him to find a solution, to say that it's okay, it's fine,
Mm-hmm.
just bring love also to your body, just accept as it is, and then yeah, to find solution. And after that, it's uh, it's also something that we can bring to the relationship, to the horses, for example, for a rider or an owner. And yeah, but the fact in my treatment with humans, it's yeah, and I love that, to just to make the connection between the body and the mind, and to say, okay, there's you are coming for that, and your body express something else. So what's your synthesis? And then after they are in a way obliged to to answer. So, but after that, they, but you know, each time I say, okay, we saw that, but it's your choice. If you want to stay here, it's
Mm.
your choice. It's fine. But you have to know that if you do not work on that,
Mhm.
it will come back. So it's your choice, and you are just a way to find the problem finally as a therapist. You do not, yeah, it's yeah, it's a kind of tool more than a kind of healing, because the
Mm.
body is self-healing by itself. But yeah, but the fact to be with uh, positiveness, with love to the patient, and to say, okay, I see that
Mhm.
you have the choice to do what you want, but I show you that it's like a mirror. So,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yes, and I could say 8,000 things right now. Like everything, everything you just shared, it's so rich and so beautiful. And yes, um, what I want to bring forward though is there are a lot of human practitioners, like people, human therapists that don't have the experience with animals. They, right? And they're just humans working on humans. And then there are practitioners who do have experience with animals and have and are open to that, to a different, at least as I see it, a different depth of clarity and awareness.
Mhm.
And so um, I guess where I feel like part of what's in my heart is to help humans who work on humans, open themselves to the experience of being touched, have their heart touched by the animals, you know, work on animals for a bit, just to have the experience in yourself that you can then bring to humans. Because at least as I see it, as well, my experience is working on animals activates part of our own consciousness and our own heart, that part that makes it okay to have no guilt, the part that makes it okay to not judge and have the freedom to do something about it or don't. You know, you're free either way. There's no judgment. Um, but wouldn't you say there's, and again, just tell me about your experience, but that there's a difference when you're a human working on humans if you have experience touching animals and being with animals, wouldn't you say?
The thing is, I think that in our world, since maybe more than decades, we to be the to let the thing more clear, we built a lot of specialties, and specialties are good because you can fix any discipline in a box, but finally it locks also everybody in his box, and we a lot of professionals are losing this maybe this capacity to to do some links, to cross the links,
Mm-hmm.
and to develop new discipline, new aspects. What I love with my also with my courses is that I build with my studies a lot of clinical knowledge with scientific um, language too,
Mm-hmm.
and something that is universal to speak with, to understand, and to work on it for humans,
Mm-hmm.
to work that way with horses,
Mm-hmm.
and then after my chance was to have this sensitiveness to say, okay, we have in this scientific community all these tools about anatomy, physiology, and so on. The same for horses. But then after, to try to, I discover this way of some equitherapists to work with this somato-emotional, and they are talking about, yes, experiencing. So experiencing in the real, in the physics, in your body. And then after finally you're discovering that, yes, finally, maybe we can mix some scientific knowledge about also physiology, psychology also,
Yes.
and then after an aspect of somato-emotional and in an experience on that.
Yes.
And it's all about finding the way to structure some kind of knowledge, some kind of teaching, some kind of, yeah, I mean, to to set some boxes, but just to explain it more easily. But finally, the way is to keep an openness about to cross a link between different disciplines, to in that way that everyone can find a way to build this process and to elevate this consciousness, and
Mm-hmm.
for everyone to bring something positive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
don't know if I answered to your question, but
oh, it's beautiful. Everything you're sharing, I appreciate so much. Like, really, it's so beautiful and exciting to me. And so, just touching on the science and sensitivity part of it, what I hear you saying and what I see people are now looking toward and creating is how, and this is how I like to say it too, how can we stand on the foundation of sensitivity and intuitive intelligence, and then use science and intellect to guide and shape what we're already aware of, to communicate what we're already aware of, because it does provide a universal way to talk about my awareness in my body, right? Like if I have an awareness that something's wrong and I have the am willing to tune into it, I can feel things and then bring my scientific knowledge forward to communicate and discover a way to approach and help the body heal itself. And that's what you're saying is blending the two, blending the sensitivity and the intuition with science, because intuition is always going to be beyond science, or we will always be able to sense more than science can talk about, right? Simply because we feel things before we know how to study them, right? You have to be able to ask a question in order to study something. And everything that we create starts first with our awareness, right? And yeah, I get very nerdy about that, about intuitive intelligence. It's so
Yeah, right.
real, so real for me. And this is part of why I love what you're sharing and who you are, and that you're sharing it. Because it's just touching it touches the part of my heart that knows, like, it's always known this is possible, let's do it, you know. And that's I just love and appreciate so much that we can have this conversation.
Thank you. The thing is also is that, for example, in physical therapy,
Mm,
um, with a nervous system,
mm,
we we have all cartography about nervous system,
mm,
and we are discovering every day some different aspect of physiology of the nervous system. But in physical therapy, we can have an impact on physiology, but in that way it's not that way that we will have um, an observation about a somato-emotional or
mm,
an experiencing. And
mm,
that was it, interesting to blend is, could we yes we can, but it has to be, to find a way to structure it also, is that in a complex of an experiencing of emotional, so could we add, for example, some tools of physical therapists
mm,
to have an impact on one or another, you
mm,
see?
mhm.
And that's what could be interesting. It's not only to be a physical therapist that learn, oh, for that I have to do that, so you press the button.
Right.
And yeah, but it's like also this way it has been taught. And and it's, yeah, it's make me think also about, in my practice, mostly for horses but also for humans, it's the way you are coming to the patient, the way you are respecting the distance, the way you are coming, the way you are, the speed with touch make all the difference. And it's also more important with a horse because you do not have a way to communicate verbally, so everything is passing by your attitudes, your moves, and also the way of the speed of your move with your hand, and it makes all the difference. And it also what it makes your treatment on a horse will be bad or wonderful, because of also the speed and the way you will touch. So yeah,
Mm,
but so that's why the way to integrate something somato-emotional is really, it's something very, I love that. So
mm.
so many things to develop and to share and to structure. So
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much. I think let's wrap up for today. We could probably talk on and on and on. Um, but thank you so much. Thank you for sharing so much. And I love the heart that you're bringing to what you're doing. I just appreciate it. And so, is there anything you would like to say or share before we wrap up? Do you want
oh,
to let people
no,
know how to find you, and for those in Switzerland who want to reach you?
I think with all of that, you have we can put my link, and everyone can can take contact with me with pleasure. No, I think thank you so much for letting me introduce myself and have this wonderful discussion with you.
I look at you with an open heart and see who you really are. No need to find the words for this faith and grace, but don't doubt it, trust the smile on my face. You come to me as a kindred soul who's never been alone. Through dark, uncertain days when you were asking why, I have been the light on the other side. There's a way to live this life, to stop doing and start being, and understand the meaning of the wonder all around. With your spirit in the air and your feet on the ground, the smallest step on the hardest road will lead you where you're meant to go. Surrender to this moment and let yourself be free. The truth is that your story starts today.